Part 8. 80s, after marrying a disabled man, I am really fragrant. Author, Nostalgic Head. Chapter 71. Chapter 71. The patient comes to the door. Dad is highly educated. She always thought that he would ask Lu Zhengai to name the child. People in this era mostly let their elders choose their children's names. If it wasn't the elders, it would be the father who chose it, so there was no way for the mother to name them. The child is named. Ning 11 absolutely hated this broken rule. She also said that men and women are equal. Men and women are still not equal in this era. Take the matter of naming a child. It is obvious that the child was born after a woman narrowly escaped death. The result is not only that she cannot, if you follow a woman's surname, you don't even have the right to give her a name. What is this called equality? This is purely bullying and not treating women as human beings. But what can she do? The atmosphere of this era is like this. It is almost impossible for her to change everything by herself. Moreover, if she stands up to resist, she will be regarded as an alien, isolated and denounced. In the end, the Lu family may even be involved. These relatives will also be disappointed in her. You can get it yourself, there's no need to bother Dad. Then I'll think about it seriously. Ning 11 lowered her head and raised the corners of her lips slightly. It was great that she could give their baby a name from her previous life. It's not what Lu Nan just said. Ning 11 raised her head and looked at Lu Nan seriously and said, "Brother Nan, why do you say that you are worthless? Your brain is obviously smarter than mine. If he wasn't smart enough and didn't have enough means, he wouldn't have been able to sit in the position of leader even though he was disabled in his previous life. Her man cannot lose confidence because of her momentary glory and think that he is of no use at all." Lu Nan was stunned for a moment, but quickly realized that Ning 11 was afraid that he would think she was worthless because she was able to make money. Well, why is his silly girl thinking about everything? While I was happy, I was also filled with a strange feeling. Silly, when did I say that I am worthless? I know where my strengths lie. Ahem, cough, cough. Lu Nan coughed at the two of them, with a stern look on his face. I was wrong before. It should be said that I can't do such a delicate job as naming, so I still have to leave the naming to him. Come on. Ning 11 stared at Lu Nan and made sure there were no other emotions on Lu Nan's face before lowering her head and continuing to eat with relief. I will think about it seriously. Be good. Lu Nan raised his head and rubbed her head. I'm not a child. Ning 11 pouted and touched her head. Why did this person always treat her as a child? Instead of saying she was young, he used such coaxing words to praise her. You will always be a child with me. I turned off the light and was in bed. Why didn't I see you treating me like a child? Ning 11 rolled her eyes in a depressed manner, and instantly felt that the crayfish in the bowl was no longer fragrant. She bit the crayfish fiercely, thinking that the crayfish was someone and wanted to bite him into pieces. But someone didn't realize that her little daughter-in-law wanted to bite him to pieces right now. She was still laughing and chatting with her. She didn't get any response, and she was talking very happily. Since when did this person become so noisy? After dinner, Lu Nan washed the dishes, and Ning 11 walked into the production room, lit a lamp, and sat in front of the sealing machine to load dried fish. Now that I have some free time, I might as well pack some more small fish to dry and send more back to the village tomorrow. Xiao 11, Uncle Chen and Aunt He are here. Lu Nan led Dr. Chen and Aunt He into the backyard. It's been tidied up in a decent way, and he looked at the tidy yard, then looked down at the plastic film on the ground. What are you doing with the film? Isn't the ground paved with tiles? Uncle Chen, Aunt He, sit down. Lu Nan pulled over two stools and pushed the wheelchair to another sealing machine to seal the spicy strips. Ning 11 greeted with a smile before explaining, this will be cleaner and better protect the bricks below. This kind of bricks are hard to find. If a brick is broken, there will be one missing. If it's broken, It's broken, it's no big deal, Dr. Chen said indifferently, but he was very satisfied in his heart. Dr. Chen was reluctant to rent out his younger brother's house. There is no need for them to destroy the house for the rent. This kind of old house is full of antiques brick by brick, and it will be very troublesome to repair it if it breaks down. That's not possible. Uncle Chen and Aunt He helped us rent the house. Although I can't guarantee that it will be returned to you in good condition, at least the places that should be cherished will be taken good care of. Ning 11 looked serious. The house will be very valuable in the future, and she can't let it be destroyed in her hands. You girl, and he pointed at Ning 11 with a smile, walked to Ning 11 and sat down. Xiao 11, your Uncle Chen and I came here today to take a look at your small workshop, and we also have something to think about. Help me. Help, Ning 11 was stunned for a moment, then quickly said with a smile, what's wrong with Aunt He? And he glanced at Uncle Chen, who walked over and sat on the stool. Xiao 11, one of my nephews had a car accident and lost feeling in his legs and his entire lower body. I want you to help him take a look. Finally, a patient came to her door. Although Ning 11 was busy doing business all day long, her heart was always thinking about treating people. If her medical skills, which are regarded as national skills, were buried like this, she would not only be sorry for those suffering from seriously ill patients are also sorry for their own pockets. Seeing that Ning 11 was silent, and he immediately said, I know you are busy. You can decide when to see a doctor and it will definitely not delay your business. Uncle Chen and Aunt He, I can only help you to see whether it can be cured or not. I can only confirm after seeing it. Besides, I won't be able to stay in town for a few days. I still have a lot of work waiting for me at home. Before Ning 11 could finish speaking, Aunt He interrupted her with a smile, what's the matter? Just ask him to go to Shanghe village to see you for medical treatment. Okay, if I have less work to do in the afternoon, I can ask him to come over in the afternoon. Dr. Chen immediately asked, will it be done tomorrow afternoon? Ning 11 nodded and agreed, okay. When Aunt He saw Ning 11 agreeing, she smiled and said, Xiao 11, the parents of that child are friends of your Uncle Chen who have known each other for many years. Their family conditions are not bad. You can charge whatever you want for the medical expenses, as long as there is hope they are willing to spend any amount of money to cure that child. I really don't know how to charge for medical expenses. I haven't officially gone out to see a doctor. Ning 11 smiled awkwardly. She really didn't know how to charge for medical treatment in this era. I charge 200 RMB for a consultation and 80 RMB for an acupuncture treatment for seriously ill patients. Your medical skills are superior to mine. Do you think it's okay to add half a layer more to my charges? Dr. Chen was trying to elevate her by saying this. If she agreed, she would be admitting that her ability was higher than that of an old senior like him. She does have some skills in treating leg diseases, but this does not mean that a little girl's medical skills can be higher than that of his senior who has been studying medicine since he was a child. He just wanted to test whether Ning 11 was a coward. If she was really a coward, he wouldn't say anything. But just this once, he would never introduce patients to her again in the future. Of course, this is because Dr. Chen doesn't know Ning 11's abilities yet. If he knew, he would be ashamed of his temptation. End of this chapter. 80s, after marrying a disabled man, I am really fragrant. Author, Nostalgic Head. Chapter 72. Chapter 72 Jealousy. Ning 11 smiled and shook her head and rejected Dr. Chen's proposal, just pay according to Uncle Chen's price. She has to respect her elders. She has to be humble. Although she is indeed more capable than others, they are older and more famous than her. Dr. Chen nodded and said nothing, but he couldn't hide the satisfaction in his eyes. Yes, yes, she is a sensible and humble girl. After chatting for a while, Aunt He and Dr. Chen were about to go back. Before leaving, Aunt He said to Ning 11, that child is spoiled and has a stubborn temper. Xiao 11, please be more careful and don't argue with him. Don't worry, and I don't have to be serious with the patient. It was already late at night. As soon as Ning 11 got into bed, she was pulled into Lunan's arms. Do you really want to give him an acupuncture? Ning 11 reacted for a while before realizing that Lunan was talking about the patient introduced by Dr. Chen. She looked at Lunan doubtfully. What's wrong? You want him to take off his pants and give you acupuncture? He gritted his teeth and glared at her. He didn't forget that when Ning 11 gave him acupuncture, he only had a pair of shorts left on his lower body, and he was injecting some skin near the inner thigh. When acupuncture points are applied, the shorts will be pulled up. Ning 11 looked at Lunan blankly, and then blinked for a long time. Brother Nan, are you jealous? Who? He was jealous, but he swallowed his words hard. Can't be brave. The result of being brave is that this girl will make him depressed to death. Who would allow his wife to give acupuncture to a bald man? Ning Xia rolled her eyes at him unceremoniously. You're not naked, aren't you wearing pants? A pair of close-fitting shorts, also called pants. Brother Nan, in the eyes of doctors, there is no difference between men and women. The bad girl must be angry with him to death. Lunan took a few deep breaths to calm down, and looked at her with an extremely depressed look. I don't care about other doctors, and I don't care if you want to treat diseases and save people. In short, you can't treat bald men, otherwise. Otherwise, why don't you hit me? Ning 11 seemed to be joking, but her eyes were fixed on Lunan. She wanted to know where his bottom line was, and she wanted to know if she really made him anxious. Will he do something to her like Shen Daji did? He gave her a sharp look. Only those who have no ability beat their wives. Seeing that he was really angry, Ning 11 did not dare to continue teasing him. In the eyes of doctors, there is no difference between men and women. This saying is actually used in Western medicine. Traditional Chinese medicine still attaches great importance to the difference between men and women. Otherwise, in ancient times, there will no longer be the use of hanging threads to diagnose the pulse or holding the pulse through a handkerchief. As a married woman, I have to avoid suspicion. I will check his pulse tomorrow. If he needs an acupuncture, I will ask him to wear a pair of knee-high shorts when he comes over in the future. I will give him the acupuncture points above the thigh through his pants. Needle. Be good. Lunan finally had a smile on his face and rubbed her head gently. Do you think I'm a puppy or a child? Why did this person always like to pull her head? Ning 11 pulled her hair twice in frustration. Lunan's eyes flashed with disgust. I hate dogs. Hey. You really were bitten by a dog. Ning 11 looked at Lunan with bright eyes as if she had discovered the new world. A picture emerged in her mind. That must be a big yellow dog that is taller than you. I chased the miniaturized version of you all over the village, and I must have bitten you on the butt. When I pierced the acupuncture point on your back leg that day, I saw you. There was a mark on your butt, and she was thinking about that mark at that time. Was it bitten by a dog? Lunan's face became more and more ugly, especially when he heard her say that he had seen it. His face immediately darkened. He lowered his head to block her chattering mouth, and started to bite her in punishment. After a long time, he let go of her panting, and stared at her sullenly. I was bitten in the army. Ah, Ning 11's mouth grew into an O shape. It was not a smaller version of him, but a young and energetic version of him. Isn't that picture even more beautiful? Seeing the smile in her eyes, Lunan probably guessed what was thinking in her mind. Feeling annoyed and angry, he directly hugged the person to him and sat down, gently biting her chin. I can't even be so embarrassed. I've told you everything and you're still laughing at me. No, I definitely didn't laugh at you. Ning 11 didn't say anything, but the smile on her face betrayed her. He blocked her mouth again. Ning 11, you dare to laugh at your husband, you will be punished. Well, this person was not angry. He clearly wanted to use this opportunity to punish her. This punishment was a bit harsh. The workers all went to work the next day, and Ning 11 walked out of the room blearily. On the other hand, someone looked refreshed. When he saw her coming out of the room, he immediately helped her prepare face wash with a flattering look on his face. Serve breakfast. Lunan had to arrange the work of the workers early in the morning and had already eaten breakfast. Now he was sitting at the dinner table with her. Seeing that she was not energetic, he quickly asked with concern, "Would you like to sleep a little longer? I'll just watch over there." Ning 11 glared at him angrily, "I have to teach my second brother and sister-in-law how to make ice cream, fruit tea, ice powder, and sour plum soup today." Lunan knew that he was in the wrong. He didn't dare to get angry when he was stared at, but he still smiled and said, "Then come back at noon and take a nap." "Humph," Ning 11 snorted coldly, picked up the empty bowl and went to wash the dishes. After washing the dishes and tidying up the kitchen, Ning 11 raised her head and was about to leave, but was pulled into Lunan's arms and sat down. She struggled twice. "What do you mean by letting go and letting people see you?" "I'm hugging my wife at home, and I'm afraid people will see her." Lunanan didn't let go, but hugged her tighter. "Don't be angry, I will be more restrained in the future." Not angry, he was willing to give her the steps, so she climbed down the steps. Her tone immediately softened, "I'm just a little sleepy." He admitted his mistake again, "It's my fault. I promise to let you rest early in the future." The warm breath hit her face. Even though the two of them were already intimate, she couldn't help but blush. She twisted slightly in his arms twice. "I'm going out. You can watch at home." "Go." He leaned up and gave her a kiss on the cheek, then let go of her with a smile. It was the time for the morning shift employees of the textile factory to go to and from work. This was also the time when there were the most people at the stall. Seeing that Zhang Ying and his wife were almost surrounded by people, Ning 11 hurriedly stepped forward to help. "Uncle Zhang, would you like dried fish or spicy strips today?" "Sister Ning is here, I haven't seen you for a long time." Uncle Zhang saw Ning 11 and greeted her with a smile. After saying hello, he said, "Bring me a pound of dried fish." An aunt next to me also smiled and joked, "Sister Ning, your business is getting bigger and bigger, and you don't even have time to set up a stall." Ning 11 looked innocent, "Auntie, please don't accuse me wrongly. It's true that I don't have time to set up a stall, but I was going to get some good stuff for you." "What fun stuff have you got? Is there something delicious again?" "Sister Ning, what delicious food have you prepared? You should tell us." As soon as Ning 11 said that she was going to get some good stuff, everyone immediately became interested and started asking questions. Ning 11 didn't say what it was, she just said, "All kinds of ice-cold drinks." End of this chapter. You are listening to Novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. 80s, after marrying a disabled man, I am really fragrant. Author, Nostalgic Head. Chapter 73. Chapter 73, Trial Opening of Small Shop. Aunt Yang, who was standing behind, couldn't help but glare at Ning 11, "Why are you so pretentious? The well water is also ice cold." Okay, I said, "I bought a refrigerator to make ice cream and various cold drinks. If you are interested, you can come over and try it in the afternoon." After saying that, Ning 11 added, "Today is not officially open. Please try it for free." A refrigerator, that costs a lot of money. Is ice cream a popsicle? Only the supply and marketing cooperative in our town sells popsicles. Everyone's eyes lit up and they immediately started asking questions. Popsicles are ice cold and cool and are a must-have item for relieving the heat in summer. Even if a refrigerator is too expensive and you may not be able to buy one if you have money, the only place that sells popsicles in their town is the Supply and Marketing Cooperative. The popsicles sold are very valuable, xiao xiao one stick costs 5 cents. Ning 11 also smiled and explained, ice cream is similar to popsicles, but there are some differences. The ice cream is softer and the taste is different. Someone immediately asked, can I really taste it for free? Zhang Ying laughed at the side and said, ouch. When did we deceive everyone and say that free tasting is free tasting? But each person can only receive it once. It costs money to make ice cream, and I don't dare to give it away endlessly. What would Aunt Yang want today? Seeing Aunt Yang walking up to her, Ning 11 immediately asked with a smile. One sentence. Give me half a pound of spicy strips. Great, Ning 11 immediately started to prepare the spicy noodles for Aunt Yang. Aunt Yang, bring the 2 boys from home over here this afternoon to try it. I guarantee they will like it. Aunt Yang smiled and nodded, okay. Ning 11 continued to smile and said, there is one more thing I want to tell everyone. Ning Mi's small shop will officially open tomorrow, and all my dried fish and spicy strips will be packed in bags. Someone asked aloud, what's the difference between the bagged one and the current one? Zhang Ying immediately answered, bag packaging is more hygienic and can be stored for a longer period of time. There is no need to weigh it. You can take as many bags as you want. Ning smiled and added, I have written the production time and shelf life on the bagged ones. If you buy them, you can eat them as long as the shelf life has not expired. Someone said again, that is indeed much more convenient, but will the price increase? It's still the same price as before. After this wave of customers left, Ning 11 opened the shop and started making preparations. Ice cream only requires eggs, milk, and sugar. She can make different flavors of ice cream by adding her own fruit sauce. Making ice cream is very simple, but boiling the fruit jam is time-consuming, and whipping up the ice cream is a waste of time. This task is directly left to Lu He. Fruit tea is simpler. Make a bucket of tea first, then add ice cubes, various fruits and homemade syrup when making it. Ning 11 brought the ice powder seeds back from the city. When the spice supplier came to deliver the goods a few days ago, she showed the ice powder seeds to the supplier, and the supplier agreed to help her supply the ice powder seeds. Iced sour plum soup is made with some modifications based on the recipe in the medical book. It tastes sour and sweet and can relieve summer heat. I went home for lunch at noon and took a nap for a while. When I came out, there were already several ants standing in front of the store. Almost every ant came out with her own children. It was quite sunny outside and everyone hid under a big tree at the door. His face was red from the sun and he was sweating profusely. Lu He twitched his mouth, this is too positive. Zhang Ying muttered in a low voice, it's free. I'm also active. Ning 11 just smiled and walked over quickly, the ants are here so early. An ant smiled and said, no, as soon as I heard that there was ice cream available, my grandson pulled me out as soon as he put down the bowl. Ning 11 took advantage of the situation and rubbed the little fat man's head. You can eat ice cream, little one, but you can't eat too much. And you can't eat it immediately after eating, otherwise you will get a stomachache. Yeah, the little fat man nodded vigorously and said with a flattering look on his face, Aunt Ning, your spicy strips and dried fish are both delicious. Ning 11 was amused by little fatty, and immediately said, you have such a sweet mouth, Aunt Ning will reward you with an extra piece of ice cream later. When the little girl next to her heard that little fatty could get an extra piece of ice cream, she immediately said, Aunt Ning, what you made not only is it delicious, but it's also good looking. My mom said that if she was half as good looking as you, she wouldn't fight with my dad every day. Zhang Ying lightly flicked the girl's forehead, ah. Your Aunt Ning is beautiful, isn't Aunt Zhang beautiful? The little girl immediately said, Aunt Zhang is also beautiful. My mother also said that Aunt Zhang and Aunt Ning can't get a tan when they stand outside in the sun every day. Zhang Ying was amused and laughed out loud, ha ha. You are so sweet, Aunt Jong will give you an extra piece of ice cream later. As soon as the other two children heard that there was a reward for good words, they immediately came up to Ning 11 and Zhang Ying and praised them so much that they laughed, and immediately promised to give them an extra piece of ice cream later. While several people were chatting, Lu He had already opened the door of the shop. "Everyone, please stop standing outside here and go in and sit down," Ning 11 greeted them to come in. Zhang Ying touched her fair and tender face, smiled and approached Ning 11 and whispered, "If it weren't for the mask you made, I would have been tanned. Look, my hands are several degrees darker than my face." Ning 11 also noticed Zhang Ying's dark hands at this time. "Didn't I give you skincare lotion? There are so many expensive medicinal materials in it, I'm willing to use it on my face, but I'm reluctant to use it on my hands. Besides, it doesn't matter if my hands are dark." Knowing that Zhang Ying was frugal, Ning Xia smiled and said, "The mask is not expensive. You can put some on your hands when applying the mask in the future. You can also apply it on your hands, so I'll try it at night." The three of them also walked into the counter and got busy. 4 children lay on the counter and looked into the counter curiously. "Aunt Ning, is that the refrigerator? Why is that refrigerator screaming? Is it cool in the refrigerator? Why is it called a refrigerator? Aunt Zhang, when will we have ice cream?" Lu He smiled and pinched the little chubby little face. "Call Uncle Lu and I will get you ice cream right away." "Uncle Lu!" the 4 children almost shouted Uncle Lu in unison. "Be good, wait." Lu He took out the lunch box from the refrigerator. The ice cream inside was not very frozen. He picked up a homemade wooden spoon and dug out the ice cream from the lunch box. This wooden spoon was made as a ball scoop according to Ning 11's request. The scooped out ice cream turned into a round sphere. When Lu He was making the ball scoop, why bother with a small spoon if it wasn't worth a few dollars? It's a waste of time to do it yourself, and it's so deep. Who can use a spoon to go so deep like this? When the ice cream was dug into a small ball in his hand, Lu He was also stunned, and finally understood the beauty of this thing. This wave of operations made the 4 children widen their eyes, open their mouths and exclaim, "Wow! It looks good." Lu He put the dug out round ice cream ball into a glass bowl, then took out another flavor, dug out one, put it in and put it on the counter. "Come one by one, today it was originally for each child. I'll give you 2 of ice cream, and Aunt Ning and Aunt Zhang will each give you 1, so you can get 3 of ice cream." When her grandson got the ice cream, my aunt immediately said to the side, "Why don't you thank Uncle Lu quickly?" "Thank you, Uncle Lu." After saying thank you, Xiaopang Dun immediately sat down on the table aside with the ice cream and picked up a small spoon to eat. "Sweet, so iced, wow! It's delicious." End of this chapter. 80s, after marrying a disabled man, I am really fragrant. Author, Nostalgic Head. Chapter 74. Chapter 74. The First Patient. Seeing that little fatty was eating happily, the other little guys were anxious. Sometimes they looked at little fatty with envy, and sometimes they looked at Lu He anxiously. "Uncle Lu, can you hurry up?" "Don't worry, it will be fine soon," Lu He reassured, and his speed was a little faster than before. Another child got the ice cream. This kid couldn't wait to sit on the stool and couldn't wait to pick up a small spoon and stuffed a mouthful of ice cream into his mouth. "It's delicious." The little girl who had previously praised Ning 11's beauty did not immediately put it into her mouth when she got the ice cream. She gave it to her grandmother first. "Grandma, you taste it first." The old man took a bite and patted his little girl's head with a smile. "Yeah. It's delicious. Niunio is so good." Zhang Ying came out with a bowl of ice powder. When she saw this scene, she couldn't help but envy her. The little girl is so well behaved. If I can be so well behaved when I take care of my children in the future, it will be worth it even if I am exhausted. Lu He said with a smile, "If you like a little girl, let's bring a little girl too." Ba, ba, ba. Xiao Lu, you can't say this. If you really bring a little girl, you'll be angry. The ant on the side quickly taught Lu He a lesson. Ning 11 couldn't stand this kind of thing, so she immediately said, my son and daughter are all my own, so why should I be angry? Lu He just smiled and said, I'm not angry either. My son and daughter are all mine, and I like them all. The ant smiled awkwardly and immediately changed the subject. You and your wife are quite old, right? Why don't you plan to have a baby? I'm so busy now that I don't have time to take care of the kids. Let's wait and see. Auntie, try my ice powder. Zhang Ying handed the ice powder to her aunt and returned to the console to get busy. The matter of giving birth still stirred up a lot of waves in Zhang Ying's heart. She couldn't help but approach Ning 11 and whispered, Xiao 11, why don't you take your second brother's pulse when you're free, see if we can have a baby now. Zhang Ying and Lu He have been married for 2 years and have not had a child. This is not because they cannot conceive, but because Lu He was in a car accident a year ago. Lu He almost died and was hospitalized for several months. When he was discharged from the hospital, the doctor told him that his physical condition was very poor and it was best to take care of himself for a year or two before having a child to avoid having an unhealthy child. This year, Lu He stayed at home and did not go out to work because of his poor physical condition. Ning 11 nodded, okay, I'll check on the second brother's condition, and then I'll prepare him some medicine, food, or something to take care of him. The number of customers in the shop quickly increased, and the three of them also became busy. Fortunately, they had prepared what was to be prepared in the morning. Now there is no need to cook bowls one by one, just scoop them out and serve them to everyone. At around 1:30, and he came over and called Ning 11, saying that the patient Dr. Chen mentioned had arrived. The two of them went back together. There was no one in Baohe Hall at this time. The sun was the most scorching at this time. If it weren't for a serious illness, no one would choose this time to come. And he took Ning 11 into the acupuncture room. In addition to Dr. Chen, there were 3 people sitting in the acupuncture room, 2 men and 1 woman. Judging from the clothes of the 3 people, they should not be from their town. They probably came from the city and should be from home. It's indeed quite rich. There was a boy who looked young and was sitting in a wheelchair. He had a calm face and exuded an intimidating aura. He is indeed a bad-tempered master. Ning 11 glanced at it and then looked away. Liang Hongying was surprised when she saw Ning 11 coming in. She heard from Dr. Chen that the person who treated her son today was a young man, but she didn't expect that this woman was so young. She looked younger than her own son. Can she really do it? Chao Deifu was calm. When he saw Ning 11 entering the door, he immediately stood up with a smile, is this Dr. Ning? And he introduced aloud, this is Ning 11, Xiao 11, this is your uncle Chen's friend Zhou Deifu, his wife Liang Hongying, and this is their child Zhou Jian. It couldn't be that Chao Taifu. She remembered that the richest man in Zhang City was Chao Taifuk. It was said that he only had 5 yuan when he ran away from home in the 1970s. It was with 5 yuan that he earned his first pot of gold. Ning 11 naturally wouldn't ask stupid questions like whether he was the richest man. He looked calmly as if the words Chao Taifuk didn't spark any sparks. Hello, Dr. Ning. Hello, Zhou Deifu stepped forward and slightly arched his body, extending his hand to shake Ning 11's hand. This gesture can be regarded as a sign of respect for Ning 11. Although the doctor in front of him doesn't look very big, but if Dr. Chen can recommend her to him and praise her endlessly, he must be capable. Hello, Mr. Zhou. Ning 11 stretched out a hand and shook Zhou Deifu's hand. Chao Taifuk stretched out his hands out of respect for her. No, to be precise, it was out of his trust in Dr. Chen. It was not disrespectful for him to stretch out his hands, but he did not intend to lower his attitude. She knew that if she lowered her attitude, it would make people distrustful and think she was incompetent. Liang Hongying finally stood up and said, Dr. Ning, Can my son's leg really be cured? Ning 11 responded calmly, I haven't had an examination, so don't blame me. Even Uncle Chen can't guarantee it. That's for sure. I'll trouble you. Dr. Ning Zhou Deifu smiled along with him and glanced at Liang Hongying where Ning 11 couldn't see. Ning 11 nodded without saying anything, walked to Zhou Jin and sat down. Dr. Chen quickly handed the pulse tester to Ning 11, put the pulse tester in place, and Ning 11 asked Zhou Jin to put his hand on it. Zhou Jin sat motionless. After being glared at by Chao Deifu again, he slapped his hand on the pulse checker as if losing his temper. There was a pulse checker and she made such a loud noise, which showed how serious this person was. Of course, it had nothing to do with her that people liked to get angry at her. Gently put his hand on Zhou Jin's wrist. It took a lot of time to check the pulse this time, and the people in the room were a little anxious. The expression on Zhou Jin's face also changed, from expressionless to full of sarcasm. Pretend it? I don't see how you can keep pretending. It's no use even after seeing so many well-known doctors. He doesn't believe that a little girl with no full hair can cure his disease. Dr. Chen also got a little anxious while waiting. He stood up and stood aside. When Ning 11 retracted her hand, she immediately asked, Xiao 11, how are you doing? At the same time as Dr. Chen spoke, Zhou Jin also took back his hand, I can't speak anymore, it's a waste of time. Uncle Chen, don't worry, let me take a look at his legs first. Ning 11 said to Dr. Chen, stood up and approached Zhou Jin, and was about to reach out to touch Zhou Jin's feet when she was pushed away by Zhou Jin's palm. Zhou Jin suddenly struck, and the strike was heavy. Ning 11 didn't expect him to take action at all, and she fell backwards unprepared. Dr. Chen was standing nearby, his expression changed and he hurriedly grabbed Ning 11. Ouch, and he screamed in fright, and her face turned pale instantly. End of this chapter. 80s, after marrying a disabled man, I am really fragrant. Author, Nostalgic Head. Chapter 75. Chapter 75, Exploded. Being pulled by Dr. Chen, Ning 11 stumbled back 2 steps and struggled to steady her steps. And his face turned pale, and she hurriedly stepped forward to support Ning 11 and glared at Zhou Jin angrily, you bastard, Xiao 11 is pregnant. Hearing what he said, Chow Tai-fuk angrily yelled, what are you doing? Dr. Ning is just looking at your legs. What are you pushing her for? Why are you yelling at your son? It's not like you don't know that your son hates anyone touching his legs. Besides, can you blame your son? Liang Hongying stepped forward to protect her son. While she was aggrieved for her son, she glared at Ning 11, you if a woman wants to touch a man's leg, doesn't she know how to say hello first? Before Ning 11 could get angry, Dr. Chen said angrily, if I, a man, meet a female patient, I won't be able to examine her. Liang Hongying's face changed, and she quickly explained, Brother Chen, I didn't mean that, Uncle Chen, I don't want to treat this disease. Ning 11 was also angry. She glanced at the mother and son coldly, turned around and left. Dr. Ning Zhou Deifu hurriedly stepped forward to stop Ning 11. Dr. Ning, my son was very concerned about others touching his legs after his car accident. He just reacted instinctively and did not mean to hurt you. Liang Hongying frowned and snorted coldly, what are you asking her to do? She is just a liar. If it weren't for the sake of Brother Chen and sister-in-law, I wouldn't even agree to let him check my son's pulse. At least I can still survive by cheating. Are you sure you can live without a man like you who is mentally retarded? Ning 11 looked at Liang Hongying with a half-smile, with undisguised irony and disgust in her eyes. As soon as Liang Hongying heard Ning 11 admitting that she had cheated and kidnapped her, she immediately said triumphantly, admit that you cheated and kidnapped me. Let me tell you, I have seen people like you a lot. It only takes one glance to, bitch, what are you scolding me for? Liang Hongying finally realized that Ning 11 had just scolded her for being mentally retarded. Her face turned red with anger, and she rushed forward and slapped Ning 11 in the face. Stop! Chow Dafa grabbed Liang Hongying's hand and glared at Liang Hongying fiercely. He was such a disgraceful idiot. Why didn't he know that this girl was mentally retarded before? Sure enough, he is mentally retarded. Ning 11 stood there arrogantly, looking at Liang Hongying coldly with her cold eyes. I can treat your son's legs. I can make him stand up in just 3 months, but it's a pity that I have no plan treat him. After saying these words, Ning 11 left without looking back. When Chow Tai-fuk heard that his son's leg could be cured, his eyes immediately lit up. When he heard that his son refused to be cured, he could only go to Dr. Chen with a grimace. Old Chen, you have to help us. Lao Zhou, I thought of you because we have known each other for so many years, and that's why I contacted you immediately after seeing what this girl is capable of. Do you know what her man was like before? His legs are beyond useless. If you are well connected, you can ask someone to go to the Imperial Military Region Hospital to inquire about the condition of his legs. I personally checked his legs to confirm that his legs have indeed begun to improve. I just contacted you. If you think she is a liar when she is young, do you think I am also a liar? Dr. Chen calmly threw his hands behind his back and turned around to leave. Hearing what Dr. Chen said, Zhou Dafa became even more convinced that Ning 11's statement that he could cure his son was not false. He looked at Aunt He anxiously. Sister-in-law, you know that Liang Hongying is a talkative person. Please help me persuade Brother Chen. Can you please help me persuade Dr. Ning? That girl is very capable. I heard that her daily income from her business is more than 2,000 yuan. She doesn't need the consultation fee you gave her, and she doesn't live on the consultation fee. She can agree to treat Zhou Jin because of her. For the sake of our couple, you have offended someone by making such a fuss, and there is nothing I can do about it. And he glanced at Liang Hongying coldly, and if it weren't for the fact that these 3 people from the Zhou family were guests, she would have left right now. Too lazy to stay in the same space with them. Is 2,000 a lot? Liang Hongying curled her lips disdainfully. She bought a few random clothes for more than this amount. 2,000 is really not much for the Zhou family. In this case, you should hire someone else, and he was too lazy to take care of the family and just left. She didn't care whether she had guests or not. Such guests would never come back to her in the future. That's fine. Chow Tai-fuk felt like he was about to explode. He pointed at Liang Hongying and shouted angrily, Liang Hongying, get out of here. Don't say a word to me about my son from now on, or I will divorce you. Idiot, he has found so many connections and spent so much money on his son's illness. Even foreign doctors have asked him countless times. Now it's not easy for someone who can cure his son to appear. This stupid guy actually did it with just a few words. Take away the popularity. I gave birth to my son, why can't I take care of it? Liang Hongying rushed to Chow Tai-fuk angrily, grabbed Chow Tai-fuk's collar and threw a splash. Chow Tai-fuk, have you fallen in love with that little bitch? Do you want to use your son to see a doctor? Isn't it a good chance to have with that little in secret? If Chow Tai-fuk was going to be furious before, he was already furious now. With a livid face, he slapped Liang Hongying on the face, grabbed her hair and pushed her away. Liang Hongying, are you sick? If you are sick, go out and don't act in other people's places. You dare to hit me? Liang Hongying covered her face and stared at Chow Tai-fuk with red eyes. I not only dare to beat you, but if you dare to make trouble here again, I will kick you out immediately. If you don't believe me, you can give it a try. With one sentence, Liang Hongying did not dare to make any more trouble. She looked at Zhou Jin with red eyes. Xiao Jin, you saw that your dad wants to drive me away because of a little bitch. Mom, don't you think there is something wrong with your brain? Zhou Jin looked at Liang Hongying coldly. Liang Hongying's tears immediately fell down. You also help your father and his mistress. Ning 11 had no idea that she had become what others said was her mistress. After coming out of Baohe Hall, the angry girl went straight home and threw herself into the arms of her man. Lunan patted his back gently, and kissed her face tenderly, regardless of the crowd of people watching in the yard. What happened? Ning 11 shook her head and buried her head in his arms without saying a word. She didn't want to say anything, so he didn't ask. He hugged her gently with one hand and patted her back gently with the other, comforting her silently. After a while, Ning 11 raised her head and smiled at him. I'm just a little angry. Lunan was still uneasy and asked again, is everything okay? It's okay, I'll go out and help my second brother and the others first. Ning 11 stood up with a smile and strode out. I don't know how many storms she has experienced in her previous life. How could she be hit by this thing? She was just a little angry and wanted to act coquettishly in his arms. End of this chapter. You are listening to Novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. 80s, after marrying a disabled man, I am really fragrant. Author, Nostalgic Head. Chapter 76. Chapter 76. Lu Zhenghai's students. There were a lot of people in the shop, and the relatively large shop was already packed to the brim. At the door was a female beggar dressed in tatters and covered in dirt. Even her hair was stuck in mud. Ning 11 walked over and asked, would you like ice cream or water? She suddenly made a sound, which scared the woman and took several steps back. Ning 11 smiled friendly at the other party. I am one of the owners of this store. I will get you whatever you want to eat. The woman raised her head and glanced at the sign Ning Mi Isa. You are still literate. Ning 11 looked at the woman with surprise. The woman did not answer Ning 11's words, but timidly asked, free delivery? Ning 11 nodded, yes, it's free. The woman's dark eyes immediately lit up. Fill your belly. Ning 11 was stunned, and after thinking for a while, she understood what the woman meant. There is nothing here to fill your stomach, but I have it at home. My home is right in front. Do you want to come with me? The woman frowned, her face full of confusion, and after a while she nodded. Let's go, Ning 11 said and turned around to leave. The woman followed her not too far or too close. Once Ning 11 turned around, she would stop and look at Ning 11 warily, for fear that Ning 11 would do something to her. She is really vigilant. How can a beggar be afraid of someone harming her? Ning 11 smiled helplessly and continued walking forward. When she reached the door of her home, she stopped. The woman also stopped and took a few steps back when she heard the messy sounds in the room. She looked at Ning 11 warily. There are a lot of people in my house. If you don't want to go in, just wait here. I'll get you something to eat. The food is cold. It may take some time to heat it up. Knowing that she was afraid, Ning 11 confessed and walked quickly. Went back inside to the kitchen to heat up some food. When she went out, the woman was looking into the house with her feet on her feet. When she saw her coming out, she immediately took a few steps back. Here, Ning 11 handed the bowl and chopsticks to the woman. The woman struggled for a few seconds before stepping forward to take the bowl and chopsticks. She squatted on the ground and stuffed food into her mouth with chopsticks. She almost choked several times. Ning 11 hurried back and got her a cup of chrysanthemum tea. It seemed that the woman was not satisfied after finishing her meal. She used her chopsticks to dig the rice grains stuck on the bowl into her mouth. When she was done, she handed the bowl to Ning 11. Before Ning 11 could take it, she took the bowl back with a smile and said, "Don't take any more." Knowing that the woman might not be full yet, Ning 11 smiled and asked, "Do you want more? I'll get you some more." The woman shook her head, then her expression changed, and she hurriedly took a few steps back and looked behind Ning 11 warily. Somebody is coming. Ning 11 turned around and saw it was Lu Nan, so she smiled and said, "Don't be afraid, this is me." Before Ning 11 could finish speaking, the woman had already taken a few steps forward and shouted excitedly, "Teacher Lu." Her words, "Teacher Lu," confused Ning 11 and Lu Nan. It took a while before Lu Nan asked aloud, "Are you Lu Zhenggai's student?" Hearing Lu Nan ask this question, Ning 11 also realized that this woman had put Lu Nan on the spot and Lu Zhenggai. Their father and son did look quite similar. The woman nodded heavily, "Teacher Lu, I am Tang Xiangqin. Lu Zhenggai is my dad." "Oh," Tang Xiangqin lowered his head in despair, pulling at his clothes uneasily with both hands. Ning 11 sighed and said, "Since you are my father-in-law's student, you are also a member of my family. Why don't you come in and have something to eat?" Tang Xiangqin raised his head and looked at Ning 11, "Teacher Lu." Ning 11 thought for a while before she realized that Tang Xiangqin was asking if Lu Zhenggai lived here, so she explained, "My father-in-law lives in the countryside. Do you have anything to do with him?" Tang Xiangqin shook his head and nodded quickly. Just as Ning 11 was about to speak, and he led Zhou Deifu out of Baohe Hall toward them. Seeing Ning 11 and Lu Nan there, and he smiled and shouted, "Xiao 11, Xiao Nan. Let's go into the house first, brother Nan, ask someone to give her a meal at the hot spot. By the way, ask her if she has anything to do with her father. If she really has something to do, ask her second brother to send her there." Ning 11 felt more and more that Tang Xiangqin in front of her was in some kind of trouble. She came here to ask Lu Zhenggai for help. She didn't know whether Lu Zhenggai was willing to help her, but she still had to convey what should be conveyed. "Yeah," Lu Nan nodded, said hello to and he, glanced at Zhou Deifu with a cold expression, and then took Tang Xiangqin back to the courtyard. Knowing that they could help her find Lu Zhenggai, Tang Xiangqin followed Lu Nan into the courtyard without hesitation. Getting closer, and he glanced at Tang Xiangqin who followed him into the house and whispered, "Why did you let the beggar enter the house? What if he refuses to leave?" Ning 11 smiled and explained, "She is my father-in-law's student and she came to see my father-in-law." And he nodded and glanced at Chow Tai-Fuk behind her again. Chow Deifu hurriedly stepped forward and said, "I'm sorry, Dr. Ning, but that girl of mine is a straight-headed woman who doesn't know how to speak." Ning 11 followed Chow Tai-Fuk's words expressionlessly, "I can't even pull my intestines out of my mouth." Chow Deifu was stunned for a while before he realized that Ning 11 was scolding Liang Hongying for having a bad mouth. This girl is so creative when it comes to swearing. If he hadn't read for several years, he wouldn't even know what she was talking about. Chow Tai-Fuk smiled awkwardly. "What Dr. Ning said is that woman is just a retarded woman who doesn't know anything and has a bad mouth. You, sir, have a lot, so don't argue with her. I have nothing to worry about with a dog when I have nothing to do." He also insinuated that his wife was a dog. Chow Tai-Fuk twitched his mouth. This Dr. Ning's mouth is simply not ordinary. Fortunately, he stopped Liang Hongying before, otherwise a fool like Liang Hongying would be pointed at the nose and scolded. But also giggling on the side. And he also didn't expect that Ning 11, who was usually smiling, well-behaved and sensible, would scold people one after another. She stood there for a while before walking up to Ning 11 and saying, "Xiao 11, Zhou Jin has no intention of targeting you. I just asked, he just subconsciously doesn't want people to touch his legs." Naturally, Ning 11 would not quarrel with he, and softened her tone with a helpless expression, "And he, to tell you the truth, Brother Nan doesn't want me to treat legs of the opposite sex. If the people who came to see me yesterday weren't you and Uncle Chen, he would kick people out on the spot. Having to take off your pants for leg treatment, no man would agree to it, let alone Lu Nan, with such a layer of shorts." And he knew the cause and effect, and immediately smiled and said, "You didn't tell him that there is no distinction between men and women in the doctor's eyes." Ning 11 sighed helplessly, he said he couldn't care about others. He wouldn't agree to his wife treating a bald man anyway. This boy is really jealous. Let me help you talk to him later, and he took 2 steps forward and took Ning 11's hand intimately. Xiao 11, Zhou Jin is as old as Xiao Bei, such a small child, do you really have the heart to watch him sit in a wheelchair for the rest of his life? Ning 11 curled her lips and said, it's not my son. What can I not bear to do? Chow Tai-Fook's expression changed, and he stood there terribly embarrassed. You girl, and he glared at Ning 11 angrily. I've said what I need to say when I'm done. Just for the sake of me and your Uncle Chen, help that child, it doesn't work. End of this chapter. 80s, after marrying a disabled man, I am really fragrant. Author, Nostalgic Head. Chapter 77. Chapter 77, Conflict with Red. Dr. Ning, please save my son. He is only 19 years old. He still has a long way to go. If he is really paralyzed in a wheelchair, his life will be over. Chow Deifu also hurriedly stepped forward. Dr. Ning, if you are still angry about my girls, I will apologize to you. Chow Deifu bent towards Ning 11, I'm sorry, Dr. Ning. And he was advising from the side, Xiao 11, okay, don't be angry. Ning 11 stood up straight and refused to let go even if he said anything. Chow Deifu was also a ruthless person, he just bent over and refused to get up even if he said anything. The two of them persisted like this for a while, before Ning 11 said expressionlessly, the consultation fee is 500, and an injection is 300. No problem, Chow Deifu agreed without any hesitation. He knew that Ning 11 had already said last night that it was 200 for a consultation and 80 for an acupuncture. Today, the reason why the lion suddenly opened his mouth was just because that stupid at home offended someone. It doesn't matter if it's more expensive, as long as he can cure his son, he won't frown even if the whole family is ruined. I'll start getting acupuncture tomorrow afternoon, and wear a pair of knee-length shorts every time I come here. Chow Tai-Fook hurriedly asked, can it be done today? And he also smiled and said, your Uncle Chen has knee-length shorts. Let Xiao Jin wear your Uncle Chen's today. Let's do it. I'll go back and get the silver needle, and you guys are ready. Ning 11 nodded awkwardly, turned around and walked into the house, the corners of her mouth slightly raised. This is what they came together to let her kill. Ah! You offended her and you still want to apologize? When Ning 11 came over with the silver needle, and he said that Zhou Jin was still changing his pants inside. Ning 11 leaned on the counter of the pharmacy and saw a landline phone on the counter, so she said, and he, can I make a call? Come in and fight. Ning 11 walked into the counter, picked up the phone and made a call to the village, asking someone to call Lu Zhengai. After waiting for more than 10 minutes, Lu Zhengai's voice came over the phone, hey. What's wrong with Xiao 11? Dad, do you have a student named Tang Xiangqin? Lu Zhengai was silent for a while before speaking out, Tang Xiangqin is indeed my student. He prepared to take the college entrance examination 3 years ago, but was forced by his family to drop out of school and get married. Xiao 11, why did you suddenly ask about her? I just met a beggar. She said she was your student and wanted to see you for something. I asked Brother Nan to take her home first. Since she is really your student, I will ask the second brother to send her away later. Come to Shanghe village. Lu Zhengai thought for a while and then said, tomorrow. Let her come over tomorrow. The store will open tomorrow, so there will be no time to send Tang Xiangqin back to the village. Ning 11 frowned. It was really not good to send him there today. It was almost dark when he returned to the village. Only Lu Zhengai and Lu Bei were at home. If a woman were to live at home, don't you know what will be said behind my back? As long as you don't talk nonsense, according to Yang Yufeng's character, she can run to the house to cause trouble tonight. Dad, my second brother may be busy tomorrow and won't have time to send Tang Xiangqin back. How about you take the time to come over tomorrow? Okay, let your uncle and aunt watch over you at home tomorrow afternoon, and I'll come over after. Speaking, Lu Zhengai paused and said, Xiao 11 is a poor child, help me take care of her. Good. When Ning 11 hung up the phone, Zhou Deifu came out and said that his pants had been changed. The two of them walked into the acupuncture room one after another, and Zhou Jin was already placed on the hospital bed. I want to help you check your legs first. Ning 11 stepped forward but did not act immediately. She did not want to be pushed again. It was not until Zhou Jin responded that she reached out and pinched Zhou Jin's legs everywhere, pinching every place. Then he would ask Zhou Jin if he felt anything. Zhou Jin stared at the girl beside him who didn't answer. It took him a long time to muster the courage to apologize. I'm sorry, I didn't mean to push you before. No need to apologize. I was reckless and didn't ask for your opinion before. It was indeed her fault before. She should have told Zhou Jin to check his legs first, and then checked him with his consent. Lu Nan was used to it, and for a while he forgot that some injuries would bring terrible psychological shadow to the patient. Just like Zhou Jin, he resents others touching his legs. Not just touching. In fact, if you take another look at his legs, he will also feel that you are looking down on him or that he is a waste. In fact, Lu Nan was also affected by those legs, and his temper became colder and more stubborn. If not for this, he would not have refused to accept Dr. Chen's treatment. So, Ning 11 really doesn't care about a patient. If Liang Hongying hadn't suddenly jumped out and beeped today, she wouldn't have been angry. Liang Hongying, ha! Is she born to be incompatible with people with scarlet letters in their names? Ning Hong has already made her sick to death, and here comes Liang Hongying. It seems that she will avoid anything related to Hong in the future. After the examination, Ning 11 made a final judgment. Maybe it will take less than 3 months to stand up, and it will take at least half a year to fully recover. Chao Deifu was so excited that he hurriedly said to the side, Great, Dr. Ning, I'm sorry to bother you. Ning 11 nodded lightly, walked aside to sterilize the silver needle, and quickly explained. Come here for acupuncture every afternoon. I will do acupuncture here temporarily for the next few days. I will inform you in advance before returning to the village. Then you can come to Shanghe village to find me for acupuncture. In addition, I hope Mrs. Zhou will not appear in front of me during acupuncture. I am afraid that my man will not be able to help but beat the woman. Chow Tai Fook vowed from the side, I understand, I understand. Don't worry, she will never come here again. After receiving Zhou Deifu's assurance, Ning 11 didn't say anything. After the silver needles were disinfected, she started to inject Zhou Jin's needles. After getting the needle inserted, Ning 11 asked Zhou Deifu to look at Zhou Jin, and went to the pharmacy to ask Aunt He for a pen and prescription, and asked Aunt He to help with the medicine. She returned to the acupuncture room, sat down next to it, and took out a paper to write questions. Zhou Jin was too bored lying on the hospital bed. He saw Ning 11 writing and drawing beside him. He stretched his neck and looked over there. He found Ning 11 doing the questions and followed him to read carefully. He was stunned. She did the questions too fast. He was still reading the questions while she had already finished them. Given that the time was almost up, Ning 11 took out her pocket watch to check the time, and then asked 2 more questions before standing up to get Zhou Jin's needle. Okay, for the sake of safety, it is best to choose pure cotton shorts when getting acupuncture, and put them on after disinfection every time to prevent bacteria in the pants from infecting the needle. I will write a prescription first. Ning 11 did not deal with the silver needle immediately and left Zhou Jin in the acupuncture room to change his pants. Lu Nan was also there, answering the phone in the pharmacy. When he saw Ning 11 coming out, he waved to Ning 11, Xiao 11, come here. When Ning 11 approached, he pulled Ning 11 to sit on the stool next to him, put the phone receiver to his ear, and said to the other side of the phone, "Liza, say what you just said again." "No, boss, what kind of evil idea are you talking about? Haven't you already told me? Why do you ask me to say it?" A gruff complaint came from the other side of the phone. End of this chapter. 80s, after marrying a disabled man, I am really fragrant. Author, Nostalgic Head. Chapter 78. Chapter 78. A Small Punishment. Lunan snorted coldly, "Just tell me," starting with Yankuahua's wife. Yes, 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 Yankuahua's wife is called Li Yun, and she is the daughter of the director of the People's Hospital. I asked a friend who is a nurse at the People's Hospital to help reveal the news about Ninghong to Li Yun. Li Yun went directly to the hospital at noon today. When Li Yun arrived, Yankuahua was lying on the hospital bed with his arms around his little lover, kissing her. Even a woman couldn't bear her husband doing such a thing behind her back, so he rushed up and pulled Yankuahua out of the hospital bed, beat Ninghong before she could react, and sent her directly to the emergency room. Yankuahua didn't stop him. That day in the hospital, Yankuahua looked very distressed for Ninghong. Didn't he stand up to protect his little lover at the critical moment? It took a while before a voice came from the other side of the phone, "Is it your sister-in-law?" Ning 11 smiled awkwardly. She had just expressed her thoughts. "What nonsense, answer whatever your sister-in-law asks." Yankuahua stopped him, but he didn't stop him. His face was scratched, and the back of his hand was bitten with blood. By the way, Ninghong's parents rushed to the hospital and wanted to cause trouble for Li Yun, but they were killed by Li Yun's family. After being humiliated, Ninghong was almost kicked out of the hospital. She said she was Ninghong's aunt. She knelt down and begged Dean Li, so Dean Li didn't let anyone drive Ninghong out. She is a silly woman again. Her parents did not kneel down, but she is so active as an aunt. Ning 11 shook her head helplessly. Lunan said to the phone again, "It's almost time to take action on Ning Dalong's matter. Remember to take good care of him after sending him in." Lunan bites the word "take good care of yourself" very hard. Not to mention the person on the other end of the phone, even Ning 11 understands that Lunan definitely doesn't mean to take good care of her. "Understood, I ask someone to take the photo and I will develop it later." "Okay," Lunan agreed. The voice came from the other end of the phone again, "Is your sister-in-law still here?" "Well, I'm here. Hello, I'm Ning 11. "Hello, sister-in-law, just call me Lazy Eye sister-in-law. I heard from Joe Tong that the food you cook is better than the food in state-owned restaurants. Do I have the opportunity to come to your house for a meal?" "That's Secretary Joe's exaggeration. I can cook some home-cooked dishes, of course. If you are willing to come, Brother Nan and I will welcome you." Lunan immediately snorted coldly, "I don't welcome him. I've never seen such a noisy person. No, it's not good for the boss to be thrown away after using it. I am a director now. You said you can use me around, but you actually asked me to be an informant or to catch a mistress. If people know this kind of thing, where do I put my face? How can I care about the people under my command, and you, too, if anyone else dares to let me do this kind of thing? Okay, if you have nothing to do, just hang up." "I'm busy." After speaking, Lunan hung up the phone without giving the other party a chance to speak. "Brother Nan, it's not good for you to do this. How can you not let someone do something for you without saying thank you and then turn your back on the person?" Lunan smiled and touched Ning 11's head. "He won't be angry." "Are you being mean?" Ning 11 rolled her eyes at Lunan and stood up. "Have you gone back?" Lunan just smiled without explaining. The friendship between him and his comrades such as Joe Tong and Lazy Eye was something Ning 11 could not understand. They were not sensational people. Words like thank you would never come from him. If they say it out of their mouth, it will make the other person feel uneasy. "It will be a while. I haven't confiscated the silver needle yet." Ning 11 smiled and said, "I called Dad. Tang Xiangqin is indeed his student. Dad asked us to take care of him first. He will come over tomorrow afternoon. Lu Nan nodded to show that he understood. Chao Daifo had already pushed Zhou Jin out for a while and was chatting with Dr. Chen. When Ning 11 and Lu Nan came out of the pharmacy, father and son looked at Lu Nan subconsciously. Lu Nan also looked at the father and son. Although Ning 11 didn't say anything, he knew that his little wife had been wronged by them. It was also because of this that the smile on his face was quickly replaced by coldness. When he arrived, Chao Daifo smiled and asked, "Dr. Ning, is this your husband?" Ning 11 introduced aloud, "Well, my husband Lu Nan, brother Nan, this is Mr. Zhou." "Hello, Mr. Lu." Chao Taifuk hurriedly half-hunched his body and stretched out his hands towards Lu Nan. The other party's attitude was so good that Lu Nan didn't feel angry and stretched out a hand to shake Chao Taifuk's hand. Chao Taifuk saw his son sitting in a wheelchair with a cold face and helplessly patted him. "Boy, say hello. My name is Zhou Jin, and I may bother you for a long time." Zhou Jin still had a repulsive attitude, and his words were quite polite. "Just don't make her angry." Lu Nan's attitude was not much better. If the attitude of the father and son was not so polite, his wife's injustice would not have been ignored. Chao Taifuk hurriedly said, "No, no, no, definitely not. I'm going to cash out the needles." Lu Nan glanced at the father and son lightly, then pushed the wheelchair to the acupuncture room. And he smiled and said, "The medicine has been prepared. Xiao 11, please tell them how to take it." And he handed 2 packets of medicine to Ning 11. Ning 11 first handed a packet of medicine to Chao Taifuk. "This is for oral use. The water should be just above the surface of the medicine. Soak it for half an hour and then boil it. Boil it over high heat for 3 seconds, just 5 minutes, 3 times a day, before meals. This is for soaking feet. 1 pair every night. You can use a little more water. Soak for half an hour. Simmer over low heat. After the water boils, turn to low heat and simmer for about 30 minutes. Turn off the heat. The concoction will naturally cool down. Add cold water in. The water temperature should be higher when soaking your feet, and soak for about 20 minutes each time." "Okay, I got it." Zhou Daifo wrote down what Ning 11 told him, took out the 800 yuan in cash he had prepared and handed it to Ning 11. "Dr. Ning, I'll trouble you later." It should be Ning 11 took the money. When Lu Nan put away the silver needle and came out, Ning 11 pushed Lu Nan out of Baohe Hall. "Brother Nan, what's wrong with Ning Dalong? He committed murder and hurt others, shouldn't he be punished?" It means that Lu Nan sent Ning Dalong into trouble by using Ning Dalong to bribe Wang Ergu to deal with her. Can the charges be proven true? It would be a good thing if we could take this opportunity to send Ning Dalong to suffer some hardships. The evidence and the accomplice's confession are all fine. Ning 11 felt relieved when Lu Nan said this. As soon as the two of them entered the courtyard, they saw an unkempt head sticking out of the wooden door of the main room. They looked out with some fear and some vigilance. By now, the salesman had already received the goods and left, and he didn't know what she was looking at the empty yard. "I'm going to clean up Tang Xiangqin first." After talking to Lu Nan, Ning 11 walked back to her room to find a set of clothes, then went to the kitchen to carry a bucket of hot water into the toilet. When she was ready, she called Tang Xiangqin, "Go to the toilet, can you wash yourself?" Tang Xiangqin did not answer, but looked at Ning 11 steadily. "Teacher Lu. I called. My father-in-law said he would come over tomorrow afternoon." Tang Xiangqin obviously didn't believe Ning 11 and looked at her warily without saying a word. End of this chapter. You are listening to Novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. 80s, after marrying a disabled man, I am really fragrant. Author, Nostalgic Head. Chapter 79. Chapter 79 finally looks like a normal pregnant woman. Ning 11 didn't have to take care of Tang Xiangqin. Seeing that she was so vigilant, she said, "My father-in-law said that you are a poor child and asked me to help him take care of you first. If you don't believe me, you can leave now and come back tomorrow afternoon. Wait for my father-in-law." Tang Xiangqin fell into silence. After a long time, he said, "He looks like Teacher Lu. I believe in Teacher Lu. I understand. She should mean that Lu Nan is like Lu Zhengai. She believes in Lu Zhengai, so she will also believe in them. The last sentence is that she wants to take a bath by herself. I still have something to do. After you take a shower, you can wait in the main room. I'll come back later and help you arrange a place to stay." She said this, and Ning 11 didn't stay any longer, turned around and left the toilet, and helped Tang Xiangqin close the door. Took the backpack to the production room and packed some spicy strips, dried fish and canned apricots to take to the store. There is no one in the shop at this time. Lu He and Zhang Ying are cleaning up. Zhang Ying was washing dishes. When he saw Ning 11, he asked, "What's going on in the afternoon? Why did you bring a beggar with you? She looks very pitiful." "I just wanted to give her some food and send her away, but as soon as she saw Brother Nan, she called Teacher Lu." Ning 11 told Tang Xiangqin's story. Zhang Ying smiled and said, "This can be regarded as fate." Ning 11 neatly placed bags of spicy strips and dried fish in the glass cabinet, and bottles of canned fruit on the counter in the room. Lu He looked at the glass cabinets filled with dried fish and spicy strips and said with a smile, "Not to mention looking from the outside, our dried fish, spicy strips and cans look really tempting." Zhang Ying glanced at Lu He arrogantly, "Nonsense, when did our Xiaoxi make the wrong decision?" Lu He immediately agreed, yes, all the decisions Xiao 11 made are right. I'm not a prophet. I can't be right about anything." Ning 11 shook her head helplessly. After displaying the goods, she picked up a homemade blackboard and a box of chalk from the counter. "Sit down and write the prices of ice cream, fruit tea, ice powder, iced sour plum soup, dried fish, spicy strips and canned food on the small blackboard, and then decorate it with some flowers, expressions, etc. in the free space. The paintings are so beautiful. Xiao 11, you are so amazing. You can do everything." Chen Jing stood beside her at some point. Ning 11 raised her head and saw that not only Chen Jing, but also Lu Su was here. After saying hello, Chen Jing walked to the counter and said, "Is there anything left to eat? Everyone else got free food, and I want it too." "No more, I have to make some for my sister-in-law." Zhang Ying hurriedly took out the lunch box from the refrigerator, scooped out all the remaining ice cream, made 4 ice creams, put them in 2 bowls, handed them to Chen Jing, and poured them again. 2 cups of sour plum soup. Chen Jing handed one to Lu Su, then picked up the spoon and took a bite. "Yeah. It's delicious, much better than popsicles. There's watermelon in it." Zhang Ying smiled and replied, "Yes, this is watermelon-flavored ice cream." Lu Su was not interested in eating these things, but he still happily ate a scoop of ice cream. "It tastes very good." With just one bite, he fell in love with it and put spoonfuls in his mouth. "I feel like I can go out for a walk and eat while I'm free." Lu Su said these words seriously, which made Chen Jing laugh. "Ha ha. Brother Su, why are you more shameless than me? You said it first before I even had the nerve to say it." Lu He smiled honestly, "It's not a valuable thing. If you want to eat it, come over and eat it." Chen Jing looked at the price written by Ning 11 and couldn't help but ask, 1 penny per ball, is there any profit?" Zhang Ying explained aloud, "The ice cream sold are smaller. The cost of this thing is not high. The only expensive thing is the refrigerator." Hearing what Zhang Ying said, Chen Jing immediately became interested and lowered her voice and asked, "Except for this refrigerator, how much can I earn per box of this lunch box?" Zhang Ying also lowered her voice and replied, you can earn 20 per box. You can earn so much from just this little thing, not to mention Chen Jing. Even Lu Su was shocked. An ice cream ball costs only 1 point, but they can earn 20 from such a box. Isn't this too much? Point. I did some rough calculations in the afternoon and found that one box can indeed earn 20. Ning 11 had already decorated the small blackboard and said, since brother and sister-in-law are here, we will have dinner here later and then go back. Chen Jing immediately nodded and agreed, okay. Do you have pork belly at home? I want to eat braised pork. I just bought pork belly today, Ning 11 replied with a smile. She walked into the counter and started preparing the ingredients for making ice cream with Zhang Ying. Brother and sister-in-law, please sit down for a while, we'll make the ice cream first and then go back to cooking. Chen Jing ordered her ice cream and happily ate it. Lu Su finished the ice cream and stood outside smoking with Lu He. After the ice cream was ready and put in the refrigerator, they walked back home together. Lu Nan had already sat down to eat. Because Chen Jing wanted to eat braised pork, Ning 11 made another braised pork and spicy beef cubes. Even before the brightly colored and fragrant braised pork was out of the pot, waves of aroma were already wafting out of the kitchen, with a somewhat greasy smell entering Ning 11's nose. She seemed to smell something bad, covered her mouth and ran out of the kitchen, bending over and retching. Lu Nan and the others were standing in the yard talking. When they heard the movement, Lu Nan immediately turned around and saw Ning 11. He immediately frowned and pushed the wheelchair over. What's wrong? I vomit. Ning 11 was speechless and could only wave her hands to show that she was fine. Zhang Ying came out of the kitchen and giggled, it's morning sickness. I asked you why you acted like a normal person. Now you finally look like a normal pregnant woman. Knowing that she was just suffering from morning sickness, Lu Nan's frown relaxed. When Ning 11 recovered, Chen Jing handed Ning 11 a glass of water, rinsed her mouth, and drank some chrysanthemum tea, which finally made her turbulent stomach feel better. Zhang Ying asked from the side, is the meat in the pot almost done? Well, it's time to take it out of the pot. Just sprinkle some chopped green onion over it. Ning 11 didn't want to continue vomiting and decided not to touch the braised pork again. Chen Jing laughed and said, it looks like I won't be able to eat braised pork for a long time. It's going to take a long time to vomit. Lu Nan's brows wrinkled again in an instant. He knew about morning sickness, but he didn't know how long it would last. If he vomited like this every day, Xiaonazai, who had just put on weight, would be extremely thin. It depends on each person. Some stop vomiting after 1 month, and some stop vomiting after 3 months. Zhang Ying has never been a mother herself, but she has seen many pregnant women, so she knows a little bit about it. Lu Nan's brows furrowed even more. So long. I'm fine. Ning 11 smiled at Lu Nan. When the braised pork is out of the pot, everyone helps carry out the food and prepare for dinner. As soon as they entered the main room, Tang Xiangqin shrank into a corner and looked at everyone with vigilance. Chen Jing did not expect that there was someone else in the hall, so she asked with surprise, who is this person? After Tang Xiangqin took a bath, Ning 11 saw her for the first time. She was stunned for a few seconds before realizing that the pretty girl in front of her was Tang Xiangqin, and she said aloud, this is my father-in-law's student Tang Xiangqin. Don't be afraid of Tang Xiangqin. These are all members of our Lu family. End of this chapter. 80s, after marrying a disabled man, I am really fragrant. Author, Nostalgic Head. Chapter 80. Chapter 80. Trouble is coming. Zhang Ying looked at Tang Xiangqin with a smile. Ah. This beggar looks quite beautiful after being cleaned. Okay, stop looking, she's afraid of life. Ning 11 pulled Zhang Ying, and Zhang Ying looked away from Tang Xiangqin and put the dishes on the table. As soon as it was served, Lu Nan placed the red meat wrap away from Ning 11, fearing that Ning 11 would vomit it again. Ning 11 called out, Tang Xiangqin, come over for dinner. Tang Xiangqin shrank into the corner and refused to go over. Ning 11 could only hold the rice bowl to Tang Xiangqin, some dishes to Tang Xiangqin. Seeing Tang Xiangqin like this, Chen Jing asked in a low voice, "What's going on?" Ning 11 shook her head, "I don't know, looking at her like this, she must have been stimulated." Chen Jing nodded without asking any more questions and took a piece of braised pork for herself. Ning 11 just glanced at Chen Jing and stuffed the braised pork into her mouth, and her stomach began to churn. She quickly looked back and took a sip of water, and ate a few spicy beef to calm down her turbulent stomach. After making fish at night, Lu Nan had a stabbing worker, and he really picked Ningzi seriously. Lu He also clamped a piece of fish meat. "You've gone too far." Seeing the two of them putting the fish in their wives' bowls, Lu Su couldn't sit still and took a sip of wine, picked up a piece of fish and silently picked out the fish bones. "If you don't choose this, comparing it with his two brothers, it will appear that he is the least caring and the most inhumane to his wife, and her daughter-in-law will definitely make trouble with her when she returns." After putting the selected fish meat into the bowl, Chen Jing, who had been holding it for a while, finally couldn't bear it anymore and laughed out loud. "Ha ha! I think we should come over to eat more often in the future, and eat fish every time we come here. It was just a joke at first, but I didn't expect that picking fish bones would become the exclusive domain of married men in the Lu family." Not to mention Lu Nan and his three brothers, even Secretary Lu and Lu Zhenghua were under the stimulation of these three brats and the cold eyes of their own wives. He has honestly become his wife's fault finder. Of course, this is all a story later. After drinking for 3 rounds, Lu Su spoke up and said, "By the way, your sister-in-law and I have discussed buying a piece of land at Zhoxiang Comprehensive Market and planning to move the garment factory there. There are more people in the city and the garment factory will open if we go there. Business might be better than now." Lu Nan took a bite of the dish and said calmly, "It's pretty good." Lu He didn't know about the Zhoxiang Comprehensive Market, so he asked aloud, "Where is the Zhoxiang Comprehensive Market?" Lu Su explained aloud, "In Jiang's urban area." Xiao 11 said before that that area is okay. Lu He nodded without making any comment, picked up the wine glass and took a sip of wine. Lu Su also took a sip of wine. "Xiao 11, the salesman named Zhou Wanglong we met last time was indeed very smart. Didn't he come to see you? If he comes, he should go to his eldest brother first." When Ning 11 met Zhou Wanglong, she didn't know if or when he would come, so she left the address of Lu Su's garment factory. Yes, Lu Su also heard this and smiled faintly. After eating, at Zhang Ying's reminder, Ning 11 took Lu He's pulse. Lu He's body has basically recovered, and there is no big problem in having children now. To be on the safe side, Ning 11 still gave him a few prescriptions. Medicinal food. At this moment, Aunt He and the others had not closed the door, so Zhang Ying immediately went to the next door to ask Aunt He to help her get the medicine. Lu Su and Chen Jing were about to come back. Before going out, Chen Jing came up to Ning 11 and said, "Xiao 11, what kind of skincare products do you and Yingzi use? Your skin is still so good despite being exposed to the sun every day." As she spoke, Chen Jing reached out and poked Ning 11's cheek. "You can break a baby's skin with just one glance. No wonder Xionan's eyes are eager to stick to you." "It's nothing, sister-in-law, please wait for me for a while." Ning 11 hurried back and soon came out with a glass bottle filled with cans and handed it to Chen Jing. "This is a traditional Chinese medicine mask I made myself, 3 spoons each time, a small amount, add cold water several times and mix evenly and apply it on the face." Chen Jing did not rush to answer, "Can I use it?" Ning 11 knew that what Chen Jing meant was that she was taking Chinese medicine to regulate her body. If she got pregnant, would using this mask harm the child? "Of course, I use it myself." "Thank you, Xiao 11, Chen Jing smiled and took the glass bottle over. "Xiao 11, the shirts in our factory are really popular now. Many people asked about placing orders in the factory. The factory is now preparing to start making autumn clothes. If you have ideas, help us design some autumn clothes. I'll give it a try. Ning Xia just smiled and didn't take it to heart. She was already busy enough every day and didn't have much time to do anything else. Besides, Chen Jing probably just said a few words of courtesy, not anything else. Really let her help with the design. In July of Jiang's family, the sun is as scorching as fire. Even the air is hot. Ning 11 was already sweating profusely in the early morning. She was fanning herself and thinking about buying some fans. There were 2 in the store and some at home. I just don't know if I can buy it. Fans are also in short supply, and I don't know if the supply and marketing cooperative still has them in stock. Also, because of the hot weather, Ning Mii's small shop was already overcrowded on the first day it opened. After replacing the dried fish and spicy strips in bags, there was no need to queue up to get the items and pay for them before leaving. The people sitting in the shop came for the ice cream and cold drinks. Most of them were old people and children. The old people looked on, and the children ate the delicious ice cream with big mouthfuls. "Is this here?" A clear female voice came from outside the store, and then a girl who looked about 17 or 8 years old and dressed in a fashionable dress walked into the store with 3 slutty men. One of them is Chen Haijun, an acquaintance. "Hey. My sister-in-law's business is doing well," Chen Haijun greeted him with a smile as soon as he entered the door. He then approached the leading girl and said, "Miss Yang Xiang, this shop is opened by my sister-in-law. Let her give you whatever you want to eat, just do it." The other 2 men pushed all the people standing in front of the counter aside and said, "Get out of the way, get out of the way. Chen Haijun, no one here has anything to do with you, let alone his random relationship with a girl." Lu He's face sank, and he was about to step forward but was caught by Zhang Ying, who shook his head towards him. Ning 11 ignored Chen Haijun and continued to dig into the ice cream with his head down. Chen Haijun and his people should have come here to cause trouble. The girl walked to the counter, looked at the ice cream ball in Ning 11's hand and asked, "What is this? It looks delicious, give me one." "Ice cream," Ning 11 replied lightly and handed the freshly made ice cream to the counter. "Yeah. It's delicious." The girl took a bite of the ice cream with a spoon and nodded with satisfaction. Seeing that Lu He had just made a fruit tea, she asked, "Give me a piece of that." Lu He's face looked a little bad, but he still handed over the fruit tea. "Not bad." The girl nodded with satisfaction, took another sip, and her eyes fell on the spicy sticks on the counter. "This is..." A man came up and said with a flattering look, "This is called spicy strips. Miss Yang Xiang, this thing tastes very delicious, and so does this small dried fish. My second brother likes to take this thing with wine, but it's a bit expensive, we didn't dare to buy too much before. If Chen Haijun had told us he knew the boss here earlier, we wouldn't have to spend money to buy it. Since they have made it clear that they are not willing to pay, Ning 11 is too lazy to treat others politely. I don't know Chen Haijun, and the things here are not free." Wang Yuxiang slammed the ice cream bowl in her hand to the ground, smashing it into pieces with a crash. She glared at Chen Haijun angrily. "Chen Haijun, you are kidding me." End of this chapter.